About some of the articles that I found on my Scoop It curator. The first one is from a blog called Edudemic, and one of the interesting quotes that I found, the article's on how infographics accelerate learning, and it says students might actually be able to learn at an accelerated rate if the pertinent facts were boiled down to easy digest snippets. While this would certainly not take the place of lessons in long-term learning, infographics might do a good job at helping the students understand the basic points about a lesson. So the interesting point that I found out, or that I found about that, is that it said easy to digest snippets. Now that's sound to me very much like chunking, which I think teachers do generally anyways. Take little parts of big concepts and put them into smaller ideas so that students can master those smaller ideas before they put the whole thing together. This is also what we're suggested to do for a lot for students with any learning troubles or disabilities, and might be found very commonly in their IPPs or IEPs, and this helps them to learn more complex ideas. Another interesting idea about infographics was in the article Infographics in the Classroom, and it said visually appealing designs can draw learners in quickly, and a well-conceived metaphor can turn an intellectual chore into a game-like experience. Memorable infographics can also provide visual learners a solid mental framework within which to store new ideas. So what's not to like? So what I liked about that quote was that it talked about having infographics as something that's memorable. While I don't think that I'm as much a visual learner, one thing that I found really helped studying when I was in university was going over my pages over and over and over, and seeing that knowing where certain pieces of information were on the page actually did help me remember what I was talking about. And I think infographics can help this as well. There can be interactive infographics, which can provide sort of a movie-like experience, and lots of people remember things like that. It can also appeal in terms of making pictures or graphs instead of strictly just text, which is a lot harder to memorize for sure. I also find a lot of my students do better when they have a visualized piece of information rather than just strictly steps by text. Another interesting point in terms of using infographics, this is from an article called Teaching with Infographics, and this was written by a teacher who was looking at students to actually create their own infographics, and one of the things that they said was that asking students to actually consume infographics, so just looking at it, is just one part of the puzzle. Teaching kids to actually create their own infographics and to break down their information themselves from a complex idea into smaller ideas, and use image, symbols, and text rather than strictly just text, and communicating it effectively is a completely different idea. It's not easy. Even when I had my own, was creating my own infographic, I found it very difficult. I was like, how the heck am I going to do this? And I had to look at a whole bunch of different infographics in order to get inspired in terms of how I could see my information visualized. However, one thing they say is that in this article is that students are pushed outside their normal, comfortable boundaries, and it gives them practice and something that they could actually use in a workplace lots of marketing firms, etc., are using infographics in order to get their ideas across. The other day I just saw an infographic from Heineken explaining how they were not part of this dogfighting ring in a South American country. Simply all that was happening was that Heineken promotional banners were left up by accident, and then Heineken was blamed for all this dogfighting ideas, and they put out an infographic saying what actually happened, and I think that was a smart way to go, and it got circulated quite a bit. So that's something that could be used in a 21st century workplace, and can be a skill that students would need. And that's another thing that this article said, is that classrooms need to reflect that reality and equip students with habits of practice to make meaning of more information than they will ever know what to do with. Informational graphics are one of the best ways to start. And our students will have access to more information than we will ever know possible. I cannot believe what you can find on the internet. There's so much information, and people are putting more and more out there every single day, including myself, including our students. And by teaching them how to digest and consume and create information is a great skill that would never go to waste. One of the best skills that I know right now is how to skim through things, pick out the great information, and use it appropriately. And that's a skill to use, so that time is used effectively, and so that, but also so that meaning is made as well. I think that we need to teach our students how to do that, but also we need to let them create things. More and more businesses are getting into creation of ideas, and more entrepreneurs are doing this as well. So creating visual information is not going to go to waste.